With the times running, you always hear about green economy, but what is it exactly? We went through a lot of research just to give you the answer. It's actually not that easy. It's an intersectional concept that works not only on an economical and environmental level, but also on a social one. The fact is that green economy is not only, as you would think, based on human-nature interaction, but also on human-human interaction. Long story short, green economy is a methodology of economics that supports the harmonious interaction between humans and nature and attempts to meet the needs of both simultaneously, in order to decrease our impact on the environment while also reducing the gap between social classes. But why is it so important? Nowadays, the concern over climate change and other environmental issues is constantly growing. And we have now reached the point where we understand that we have to stop exploiting our planet like we do. We cannot change our approach to art and make it more sustainable without changing our economical system as a whole. That's where green economy entered the stage. Green economy is the solution. Now, we wanted to test their citizens' knowledge and views on the matter. What do they know? What do they think green economy is? We went wandering on the streets to find out, and the answers were quite surprising.
It's doing away with most of the businesses that create the CO2 emissions and go into a greener energy source, both personally, professionally, and more importantly, industrially.
Okay, thank you.
We asked them 10 questions about green economy and then analyzed the answers. Surprisingly, well, almost half of them didn't know what green economy is.
Have you ever heard about the green economy?
No.
Almost all of them think it's necessary to invest more money and that their country is not doing enough.
I think it's worth it for your country to invest money in a greener economy.
Yes, I do.
Is it like good or bad?
Yeah.
I think it'd be good.
Yeah, same. I think it'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Then we asked them which countries they think are the best and the worst at green economy, receiving very good answers. Though the greenest country, half of the people agreed on Sweden. For the least green, there were two main opinions, being UK and USA. To check who was right, we used an international official index called GGEI that was made specifically to rank countries' green economy. We found out that Sweden is, in fact, the greenest country, and the USA had the worst among the G7 countries, but are not that bad compared to other countries. Finally, UK is, surprisingly enough, 11th in the world ranking. In the end, we asked them about Derry and Ireland in general. They think Derry is pretty much a green city, and they have similar opinions on Ireland, placing it amongst the top or middle of the GGI ranking. But is their perception actually close to reality? Is Derry really not a green city? Ireland not a green country? We found an official UK index made to assess the greenness of each region of the United Kingdom. Since it's tailor-made for UK, the country's average is 50. Now, while England is a little above average and Wales scores a good 63.5, Scotland's outstanding 80.6 has no rivals in the country. Sadly, north of Ireland is the worst region with its 42.7. The reason is to be found in the low investments in green company, an upsetting quantity of jobs in high-emitting corporations, a strong need to reduce emissions from businesses, households and transport, and in low investment in innovation. But the future is looking bright ahead of Ireland, since with the right investments, Ireland can actually take the lead in the UK's transition to net zero. The situation in the city of Derry is pretty similar. The main thing is that Derry is not fundamentally a green city, but the potential is there. As a matter of fact, every pound invested in green spaces turns to 21 in just a year. So investing in green economy in general is getting more and more convenient, which makes possible the surprising percentage of people living within 1 kilometer from green space, 99%. Considering that Derry recently joined the LEED program in order to increase the number of jobs in the green sector, the future looks indeed bright. What about our country, Italy? Italian industries consume less energy and produce less emissions than other big countries, UK and Ireland included. Another strong part of Italy's green economy is recycling, with more than 90% of the industries that are involved and active in this field. Based on the green countries ranking, UK and Ireland are considered greener than Italy. This index aims at the overall rating of the countries. In fact, Italy is much better in particular sectors, positioning in upper parts of the ranking. To sum up, Northern Ireland is surely not one of the greenest countries in Europe, but with the right investments in infrastructures and recycling, while also creating more jobs in the green sector, it could actually become a leader in the world's transition to a greener economy.
In the last few years, we've heard a lot talking about recycling, but what do we really know about it?
Recycling is the process of collecting and processing materials that would otherwise be thrown away as trash and turning them into new products. The recyclability of a material depends on its ability to reacquire the properties it had in its original state.
It is an alternative to conventional waste disposal that can save material and help lower greenhouse gas emissions. Recycling can prevent the waste of potentially useful materials and reduce the consumption of fresh raw materials, thereby reducing energy usage, air pollution and water pollution.
We made a survey in the streets of Derry. We interviewed local people and tourists with different ages about their opinion and knowledge about recycling in general and here in Derry. Do you recycle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So everybody recycles, but what do they really know about this topic?
For me, the benefits of recycling is getting this rubbish all cleared up everywhere, and finding a way to do it rather than just taking it from one place and dumping it somewhere. I think recycling is the biggest thing we have in our hands. It really is. Because otherwise we'll be dumping forever and digging dumps here, there and everywhere and planting. No, just can't go on and heat it. I'm a big, fan of recycling.
Well, it's better for the earth.
Okay.
I don't know. Less pollution and our time's nearly up, with global warming. So I think our generation are much more interested in recycling and trying to do good. Whereas I think our parents are kind of it's not going to affect them, so they're not really bothered about it. But I think our generation are definitely more concerned.
So why is recycling so important?
It reduces the amount of waste sent to landfills and incinerators. It conserves natural resources such as timber, water and minerals. It increases economic security by tapping a domestic source of materials. It prevents pollution by reducing the need to collect new raw materials. It saves energy and it helps creating jobs in the recycling and manufacturing industries.
Oh, there's a big change, yeah, big change. Well, you have different bins now for different things. One, about 4 or 5 years ago, you just one bin and you dumped everything, food, plastics, you name it, threw it all in. It's just a matter of taking it away and starting another dump. Whereas now you have a food bin, plastics bin, and one for general waste. So at least it has split it up, and it's, for me, a start.
Oh, there's been big changes in recycling here, in the past 10 years, there has. We didn't have a garden waste bin, we didn't have the food bin, we weren't separating our food or anything, so there was big changes.
I think now at the moment, yes, the world is recycling more than Derry. Derry is a wee bit higher at the moment, I think.
So I'm from Portugal. Are you Italian? Yeah. Are you all Italian?
Yeah.
So I don't know how it is in Italy, but in Portugal, where my parents live in a village in the north, they do better because they have the bins with different colors. Yeah. My mother really separates the paper, plastic. Yeah, they know that. Yeah. Whereas here, I don't see that. As I said, it's all together. Now, if they do it at the point, that's good. But I don't think it's going to be as good because people here just mix everything. They don't really care sometimes. Yeah. And I think it's slightly not as good, I would say.
Probably Germany or something.
Yeah, a lot of people say Germany because
or Switzerland.
You're right.
Yeah.
Well, I've only been to England and spent a lot of time there with my daughter, you know, so I know that they do a lot of recycling. They separate everything, they separate bottles, plastic, you know, all different containers. They do it really well. I'd say they're kind of in the middle. You know, England's way ahead of them, you know.
I think middle or high.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're not...
Up until the summertime, we had a separate bin for our food, and now we put the food into our brown bin that takes the garden waste. And during the summer, it can smell. So to me, they've gone back. You know, yeah.
I think, as far as I understand it, so I live in Northern Ireland, and in Ireland, as far as I know, people have to pay for a company. So for example, if you want a company to come and bring your recycling or bring your food waste, you have to pay extra, I think. And that's obviously a big obstacle because people don't care. They just put everything into one, and it's the easiest and the cheapest. So I think a big plus would be to make it cheap and free where possible, and give people bins as well with stickers showing what to do. Yeah, I think that would help.
The United Kingdom is the country that produces the most waste in the world after the USA. It exports its waste to other countries, also contributing to the already very high plastic pollution of the Mediterranean. According to the Greenpeace UK, thousands of tons of plastic end up in British incinerators. Even though the government claims that over half of the household plastic packaging is recycled, it is sent overseas.
Even though the situation in the UK is not the best, Northern Ireland has come a long way, moving from 5% recycling to 50% in 20 years. Northern Ireland's government came up with some ideas in order to improve recycling in their countries, such as reduce the size of domestic black bins to encourage even greater use of the recycling ones. Use different recycling companies to collect the waste. About 50% of the waste is recycled, 29% is landfilled, and about 20% goes to what's called energy recovery. There is only one plant that produces energy from waste in Northern Ireland. It has just been opened and it generates enough electricity for 12,000 homes. While working on this project, we noticed some differences between Italy and Derry. For example, in Derry there's only one black bin for non-recyclable waste and a blue bin for every recyclable object. Instead, in Italy we have different bins for any kind of waste. If you walk in the street of Italy, you will find recycling bins. Instead, if you walk in Derry, there will be no blue bins in the street, only the black ones for non-recyclable waste. In Derry, household waste is always collected by a company. Instead, in Italy, it is sometimes collected by a company, but often you have to bring them to bigger bins along the streets. In Italy, the company will take your waste even if it's too heavy, while in Derry, if the bin is too heavy, the company won't take it and you'll have to buy a new bin.
To sum up, the situation in Derry has really improved in the last few years, but there's still a lot that can be done.
Here, people think that they are recycling in a really good way, but they don't really know much about this topic. They know that recycling is important, but they don't actually understand why.
In order to solve a problem, you have to know what you're doing, so everything should start from education. This topic should be dealt with children from the first years of school.
Another big problem is the tax you have to pay if the amount of your trash is bigger than the one your bins can contain. Of course, if people have to pay to recycle, they prefer not recycling at all.
In order to raise awareness among people, instead of having a single bin for all the recyclable objects, wouldn't it be better to entrust it directly to the citizens rather than leaving the responsibility to recycling companies whose reliability are not even sure of?
Moreover, people in Delhi should be able to recycle not only at home but also while walking around in the streets, which is impossible because there aren't recycling bins.
What is fast fashion?
We have done some research about the topic of fast fashion and got a sense of what it is. But first, let's find out what the locals of Derry know about it.
So, do you know what fast fashion is?
Fast fashion?
No.
No.
Not really.
Fast
fashion. No.
No idea.
Yeah, I know what it is. No.
Fast fashion? No.
No.
No. I don't know.
No.
I have no idea.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, buying lots of clothes cheaply, discarding them, not reusing them. Basically bought cheaply out of Southeast Asia usually.
It's just cheap clothes basically.
As you can see, many people don't know what fast fashion is, so here is our definition of the term. Fast fashion means inexpensive and disposable clothing produced rapidly by mass market retailers in response to the latest trends.
Where do you usually buy your clothes?
It's like Top Man or like Boohoo and stuff like that there.
Usually I get clothes from the charity shop or from like Primark or like ASOS or Shein.
Primark? Yeah. Like Primark, for example.
Online.
ASOS.
In the Centre Mall.
Next, that sort of thing.
Top Man. Next.
Either in like charity shops or Shein.
Mostly charity shops.
Usually thrift shops or charity shops.
Sometimes I do buy online.
Wholesale, Primark, a lot of clothes in Primark or Zara.
Primark, Pound Shop and H&M.
Primark and H&M maybe. Sometimes just. But it's better Primark, it's cheaper.
Major players in the fast fashion market in the world include H&M Group, Zara, Uniqlo, Primark, Nescap, Forever 21, Topshop, Mango and New Look.
Do you think many people in Derry go to fast fashion shops?
Absolutely loads, too many.
No. He's got a point.
The UK contribution to fast fashion is enormous. Not only did the UK invent fast fashion, but its fashion consumers are among the most voracious in the world. Talking about figures, 30 million items of clothing are sent to landfill in the UK every week, and 300,000 tons of textiles were sent to be burned or dumped in landfill in 2018 alone. Despite the growing concerns of the environmental and human rights damage caused by the fast fashion industry, research conducted by Hubbub had found that the UK has failed to tackle fast fashion. But not everything the UK is doing is bad. Let's talk about charity shops. Many of you have probably heard about them, but how do they actually work?
Well, we get our donations and then we have to sort the stock in the back. So we'll go through and see what's summer stock and what's winter stock to see what's appropriate to go out in the shop floor. And once the stock is sorted, then we will tag them and then someone will steam them and then they'll get the sizes put on them and the prices put on them and then just put out onto the shop floor.
These shops are very popular here in the UK. Around £295 million is raised by the UK charity shops each year through people's clothes donations. Charity shops' only source of fundraising is the selling of second-hand clothes. Clothes donations help everyone, us, the people in need and the environment. Charity shops are also a source of volunteering opportunities.
There could be between like 3 or 6 volunteers in at different times and different days.
While charity shops are widespread in the United Kingdom and Ireland, they are almost unknown in Italy. One of the few and most famous in Italy is called Rechic, where RAI is about to recycle, reuse and save, that has recently been opened in Milan and is a store of used clothing and accessories where you can dress with fashion without spending too much. Although historically Italian fashion has focused on quality and design, the last decade has seen a shift towards fast fashion following the economic downturn. Even though fast fashion has become more and more popular here, people are starting to become aware of the impact of fast fashion on our planet.
Do you think it is a positive or a negative thing?
I think maybe it's a positive thing. If it's something that I guess it could be both, because if it's fast, maybe it's poorly made or quickly made and you don't get quality, or maybe because you're putting out a lot of product.
It's probably a negative thing, but it could be positive for people that can't afford clothes.
We can get the products for the cheap, but I don't think so it is sustainable, because it affects the nature, and it doesn't pay much to the. I think I heard a lot of fast fashion uses the child labor, so I don't think so. It's good. Yeah,
it's a negative thing.
Negative. Because of the child labour and the environmental impact and stuff too.
I know it's like quite cheap and like simple and you can get everything there, but like I know it's not, you know, as ethical as some other companies. Yeah.
The impact it's having on our climate. The waste is ridiculous. I also think it's terrible because it's influencing other people to everybody needs this whole fashion influencer lifestyle at the minute, and I personally am trying to really stay off Instagram and do those things because you can really get caught up in it. So I think it's terrible for the environment, a waste of money, and obviously the trade, so slave labour basically as well.
I think it's overall like a negative thing, but at the same time I know that it's all that some people can afford. So I think that the blame shouldn't be placed on the people who use fast fashion, but on the people who produce fast fashion.
Fast fashion undoubtedly makes buying clothes easy and affordable, but someone, somewhere is paying. Almost 11% of the world's children are involved in child labor. Children are considered optimal employees because this industry requires workers with small hands and not necessarily with high skills. The other group that is mostly exploited by the fashion industry is women, who comprise over 80% of textile workers and often fail to make a living wage while working extremely long hours in unsafe workplaces. Fast fashion is also associated with pollution, waste, and the promulgation of a disposable mentality. The United Nations estimated that the fashion industry is responsible for about 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions every year and uses around 1.5 trillion liters of water annually, which also being one of the industries that pollutes our waters the most. Polyester, acrylic, nylon, and other synthetic compounds make up at least 60% of these cheap clothes. We are wearing plastic clothes, and each time we wash them, microplastics are entering our ocean and are destined to stay there for decades or even centuries. During this time, they are consumed by aquatic organisms, which are eaten by fish, which are eaten by us. This decrease in quality, increase in purchasing, and speed of replacement is also creating a large amount of clothing waste, all factors that make prolonged use and recycling harder, the so-called throwaway attitude.
What are possible solutions in the fight against fast fashion?
The Fashion Forever campaign, launched by Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful and coordinated by Siobhan Parnell, helped us find an answer to this question. The key message of the campaign are: never put unwanted clothes in your bin, repair, reimagine, reuse. It happens. Sometimes you fall out of love with your former favorites. But before you throw your old clothes away, have a think about what's best to do with them. Whatever you want to get rid of, you can always find places where they can be loved all over again. You can sell them and make some money out of it, or even if you don't turn them into cash, you can give them a good home by giving them to charity or giving them to someone you know. But is it really useful? Instead, if you love to be creative, you may want to consider repairing and upcycling.
But what is upcycling?
Upcycling is where you take an old piece of furniture and make it new again by either painting it or stripping it down and making it look new again, so that you can reuse it.
Another good habit that can help fight the industry of what we wear and everything that stems from it is buying smart. Think before you buy, make sure you will actually use your new clothes and verify their quality. And remember, you can always buy vintage clothes.
From the research carried out, we have realized that fast fashion is all over the world, and too few people are aware of what it is, even if several countries are starting to take action to oppose the phenomenon. We found this project interesting because we learned how detrimental the fast fashion industry's activities are to us and to our planet, and how important even a small gesture can be in the face of this issue.
Even the smallest person can change the course of the future.
Water pollution is mainly the release of substances into large bodies of water to the point where the substances interfere with beneficial use of water or with the natural functioning of ecosystems. The problem of water pollution is widespread and is detrimental to our health. A lot of diseases originate from coming in contact with contaminated water, such as cholera, typhoid, hepatitis, or skin infections. Unsafe water kills more people each year than war and all other forms of violence combined. Then, water pollution truly harms biodiversity and aquatic ecosystems. Water is a universal solvent that can dissolve many substances, and it's this quality that causes water to become polluted so easily. We will focus on 7 of the major causes of the problem of water pollution: industrial waste, marine dumping, sewage and wastewater, oil leaks and spills, agriculture, and global warming. Currently, more than a quarter of the world's population lacks access to clean water. To name a few, the Citron River in Indonesia, the Lake Karakay in Russia, and the River Ganges in India are ones of the most polluted bodies of water in the world. The cleanest bodies of water in the world are Tara River, which cuts through Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Kara River in southwestern Ireland, and, unexpectedly, the River Thames that has been periodically cleaned for the past 50 years. According to this report, rising demand for food with high environmental footprints, such as meat from industrial farms, is contributing to unsustainable agriculture intensification and to water quality degradation. Furthermore, the report highlights that water pollution is an increasing global concern that damages economic growth and the health of billions of people.
So now we are here in Derry, and we're going to find out what people know about the problem of water pollution.
What's the crack?
So, have you ever heard about water pollution?
Yes.
Have you ever heard about water pollution?
No.
No.
How much would you say you know about it? Quite a lot, enough, a little, or nothing?
Probably not a lot. I know about it relatively, particularly kind of around about here, but other than that, not really.
Which type of water do you usually drink, tap or bottled water?
Well, a combination of both, because our tap water has become increasingly chemically flavoured.
Is it a big issue in Derry? Have you ever had any problems with water pollution here?
Not really, not that I know of. What do you think are the main causes of water pollution?
Man. Can be sort of stupidity, but it can be greed, as in cutting corners, as the sort of for their business, for profiteering, or just ignorance as well, just lack of knowledge.
And could you name any issues like effects caused by water pollution?
The effects are, it's not potable, you can drink water, it's bad for your skin if you swim in the sea, also it's bad for animals' environment, and more things.
Where do you think it is the most polluted water in the world and the cleanest water?
Derry.
I don't know, I would say the River Thames. The River Rhine.
The Thames, the worst?
Yeah.
Okay, and the better?
And the best probably is Derry. I would say Scotland. I'd say there are a couple up Loch Ness or something like that probably. It's nice up there.
Okay.
It's a major priority for people's lives to face with this problem.
Yes, look at us.
In your opinion, are we getting better or worse with water pollution?
I'd say worse, because they'll talk about it, but the money's not there. In fact, what was happening here was that there was no shortage. We had a hose pipe ban, but it wasn't a shortage of water. It was a shortage of the ability to treat the water. And that's just down to money.
In your opinion, how could we get rid of the problem?
I would say it's probably government and industry has to tackle it, as well as small things like people just watching what they do with their plastics and maybe how they use their water and things, but definitely more government kind of moving forward.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
When we started doing the survey, we didn't know what to expect, and we were really surprised when, asking people if they had ever heard of water pollution, almost 39% of them replied they didn't know anything about it. The impression we've got is that the inhabitants of Derry aren't well aware about water pollution, since 6 out of 9 interviewed people consider their knowledge on this topic to be pretty low. More than half of Derry's population drinks tap water. This is due to the fact that the vast majority of UK's water meets drinking water quality standards and is completely safe to drink. On the other hand, when asked who the culprit of water pollution was, most of our interviewees blamed the general carelessness of people. This general answer notwithstanding, most of them knew what the serious consequences of it were, varying from possible skin damage to outright sicknesses and animals' mortality. All of them agreed on the utmost importance of the matter and the absolute necessity to solve it. Finally, when it came down to the last question, we received different answers. Against our interviewees' shared expectations, UK's water pollution situation is actually improving. In Italy, although its population's awareness of the problem is higher than UK's, water's situation is precarious. There is a lot of difference between the north of the country and the south, with the northern part of Italy having more viable sources of water and the southern part having drought problems. This data notwithstanding, Italy's tap water is mostly safe to drink, and there are thousands of old-style water fountains dotted around most cities where you can fill up your water bottle. Some very rural areas in Italy may have water that is not safe to drink.
Let's talk about biodiversity. What is it? Biodiversity, or biological diversity, is defined as the amount of living forms, from animals to plants and bacteria, living in a specific environment, and all their interactions. You might be wondering, oh gosh, why should I know stuff like that?
Well, it is worth to say that humans are not exempted from this great system, which literally represents the gear that makes the world go on. Biodiversity provides functional ecosystems that supply oxygen, clean air and water, and other ecosystem services.
Many recreational pursuits and the tourism industry depend on biodiversity because every country's culture is closely connected to it.
Biodiversity is also important due to the fact that it represents a source of data which help us to understand the natural world and its origins. But biodiversity is based on a very fragile balance, and especially in the last years, man's activities interfered with this balance, causing quite a few problems to nature.
The major issues are habitat fragmentation, introduction of exotic species, pollution, and climate change. After having studied all this, we went down the street and asked some questions to Derry's citizens in order to find out how much local people know about this topic.
Have you ever heard about biodiversity?
Yes. Yes, of course.
Biodiversity?
Yeah.
No.
What do you think it is?
Actually, something with environment.
What do you think it is?
Some college.
We found out that at least half of the interviewees have heard about biodiversity in their life, but they don't actually know the true meaning of the word, or their knowledge is incomplete.
What do you know about it?
Not a huge amount, but biodiversity, my understanding of it is, in certain circumstances at least, returning land back to its natural place, allowing flowers, natural flowers to grow and to blossom, to create pollinator areas, etc.
For instance, they were able to mention some of the benefits of biodiversity, but the only problem they could name was pollution and plastic in the environment.
In addition, they were not very aware of local institutions dedicated to the protection of biodiversity, but many people were able to list some actions or precautions we can do to preserve it by ourselves. To summarize, Derry people are not very informed, but they know there is a problem and they should do something to help the community. However, recycling is not the answer to everything. There is much more work to do. We should respect, protect, and restore local habitats through appropriate legislation and the choice of a more sustainable lifestyle. We can take shorter showers, buy sustainable products, support local farms, and much more. Anyway, what we really need is to teach all this to the youngest generation and educate everyone to pay more attention to something in which we all involved.
There are 20,000 species in the UK. Currently, 481 of them are on the Northern Ireland Priority Species list, which are considered to be of importance to the country and rare or in decline. About the differences between Italy and the UK, it is a pretty weird situation. Both the countries present a very rich biodiversity, but even if the UK has way more organizations that fight for biodiversity, almost half of its species are in danger.
Ireland's condition is even worse. The country has a bad reputation of the worst European country in terms of biodiversity, because of many not supported political decisions. Luckily, in the last years, Ireland has been improving thanks to many associations.